Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear brothers, sisters, viewers and friends of Ikra TV, welcome to another edition of Real Talk. I'm your host Iqbal Bana. I come to you normally from our studios in Bradford, bringing in guests who come with special information, knowledge and awareness of some of the very critical and important issues that affect our community on a day-to-day basis. Today I come to you from a unique location, which is something that I'm sure when you see and hear where I am and what this place is all about, I'm sure you'll be astounded by what they do. I'm coming to you today from Forget Me Not Hospice, which is based in Huddersfield. It's a hospice that caters specifically for children who are end of life in most cases, and also for other people who have suffered some trauma in their lives. Today I will showcase to you this phenomenal and amazing work Forget Me Not do in the region of Huddersfield and Kirklees and surrounding areas. And I have with me today two unique people who have been part and parcel of this hospice. One who has actually benefited from the services and the facilities that the hospice offers, and the other person is the practice nurse who helps families when they're in desperate need, or the need generally as well. So can I welcome both of my guests, Anila, who is here as a parent who's used the services when she needed to get support in a very difficult time of her life. And I know in the past many people from the Black and ethnic minority community, particularly the Asian Muslim community, have used this facility. And when I found out the number of people who have benefited from the facilities and the services that Forget Me Not offer, I was just absolutely mesmerized and couldn't understand that why this knowledge about their services is not widely known. And one of the purpose today is to try and make sure that people like yourselves, if you need support around these issues, know where to go. So can I welcome Anila?
Hi.
Welcome. Carol, welcome. As I said, Anila is a user of the services. Unfortunately, she went through a very difficult and challenging time in her life. And Carol, as I say, is a family support practitioner in this service as well. And later we'll be talking to one of the communications managers in the service. So can I just briefly, ask Anila, I don't know why I keep saying Anila.
It's fine.
I've got this Naila stuck in my head, but it's
okay.
Anila.
That's okay.
Thank you for coming.
No problem.
Thank you for being with me today, and thank you for willing to share, the difficulties that you went through. But bearing in mind the difficulties and challenges you went through, how Forget Me Not actually were able to help you and support you in that very difficult and challenging times. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about how you got in touch?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or how you were made aware of Forget Me Not as a hospice?
Of course, yeah. So sadly, I suffered a stillbirth last year, last August, and I'm Bradford based, so I gave birth at the NHS in Bradford.
Right. Okay.
And I didn't actually quite understand the link between Huddersfield Forget Me Not and the NHS in Bradford.
Right.
So in August, I think I was referred to the hospice by an individual nurse who offered their services when I had the stillbirth. They must have talked to me about what the services they offered, but at that time, you're going through such a traumatic time.
It must have been an absolutely dreadful time in your life.
And you don't really remember a lot. I think you remember the nurse's name, potentially for the day, and everything's a bit of a blur. And then Carol and Tara both reached out for me from the hospice.
So did the hospital in Bradford refer you?
So initially, I don't even know how the referral happened, but I assumed that the hospital I must have agreed to something. And I received a phone call from Carol, just saying, this hospice offers services. And I was a bit confused because I'd had a birth, I'd lost my baby. This is a hospice, and in my mind, I'm thinking the hospice offers services to children who are terminally ill or under palliative care, but I've already lost my child, so I didn't know what the link was. I didn't know how they'd be able to support me. Carol then took it upon herself, I think, to do a conversation with me that I'll just come out and just have a conversation. I can come to your house, or I can stay in touch with you over the phone. And at that moment in time, I think it was crucial to speak to somebody who had an understanding of that trauma and what it could do to you. Obviously, you feel very isolated. You're on your own. Both parents, you go through something that you never expected to happen in your life.
Nobody does.
No, of course.
Exactly.
And you expect to be having a healthy baby, and the pregnancy was great, alhamdulillah, but unfortunately there's a greater reason for that stillbirth.
Allah knows best.
Absolutely, Allah knows best. And then Carol and Tara came to my house to see me. It must have been a couple of weeks after.
Right.
And I think they spoke to me about what the hospice has to offer. And they came across so well that there's certain people in your life you'll never forget. And when you're at your lowest point, when somebody comes across with so much information that resonates with you.
So this was support that you really, really needed at that particular
Yeah, just somebody to talk to. Because you know when you can share an experience when you're happy and you've had a baby and people will come and visit. When you've lost a child and nobody's around you, it's just the two of you and your husband just are by yourself. And this was our first child.
Right.
And there's nobody in the house. And Carol was explaining to me that the hospice, if you just come up and have a quick chat with us, they offer counselling services. There's other bereaved mums, bereaved parents. They have different groups. I think Carol was speaking to me for about half an hour, maybe.
Right.
And because she's such a personable person,
Which
and
you can
she
see,
is,
you can see,
she is very bubbly. You just take to somebody like that, and that's what you need, I think.
Right.
And that
So
is very pinnacle.
Normally, when somebody uses the word hospice, like you say, it's for people who are terminally ill,
Of course.
who have been told, they have a limited life expectancy.
Exactly.
So, and that is what people normally associate with. So this came, as you say, it came as a surprise to you that
So I
having
think
lost a baby, they sort of approached you.
Yeah, and I wasn't quite sure. They left the card with me. Both Tara and Carol both left the number with me. They both sent me a text message and a WhatsApp message, just so I've got somebody to link in with. And I remember they were talking to me for ages, and then you forget that day passes, and then you forget what you were talking about because you're so upset and in the moment. They reached out to me a week later saying, do you want to come up to the hospice? And actually I thought, I'm stuck at home, I'm on maternity leave with no baby. And she said, just come up, it'll just get you some time away from the house. And you might like it, you might not, it might be suitable to you. And I thought, well, what have I got to lose? Let's just go see. And I didn't know the link either, that's the other thing. I'm Bradford based, and this is a Huddersfield hospice. And I didn't quite know why Huddersfield would be offering this service to me because I'm Bradford based. It's only when I've come here and they've shown me around and shown what kind of services they offer to both mums and dads, together and separately. They also offer a service to sibling groups. So if I had previous children, they would offer that service as they've lost a brother or sister. And that's amazing, that in itself, to come to a place where you can just talk about your loss with other mums, is huge.
See, normally in Islam, in our cultural families, people are expected to say, it's Allah's will, just live with it.
Which is exactly what I was going to come on to.
Yeah, just live with
Everyone was coming to see me and they were saying, Inna lillahi wa raji'un, there's a divine mercy in Allah's plan. And understandably, absolutely, there's no denying that. And as a practicing Muslim, I know that in my heart. But when you've lost your baby and you're in a very sad place, emotionally, mentally, there needs to be some sort of outlet and somebody to speak to.
And that
because
is
most mums won't have that.
When somebody like Carol and her colleague can make a real difference to your life.
And I didn't know how many people had suffered a stillbirth. I think that was the shocking factor to me. Because to me, it was like, how has this happened? I don't know what to do. You have the maternal instinct to be a mum. You've set your life, your work life is surrounded around this baby.
What about your extended family?
But like...
Did you feel that while they were there, they were not really there to emotionally support you?
So it's difficult.
We don't have that sort of structure in our community.
Yeah, we don't. There's no structure in the community.
Right.
Like my sister obviously is there for me. She's not in Bradford. She has her own children. Everyone's very busy in their own lives.
Oh, definitely.
And they'll all come for a day or two and stick around. And then when everyone goes home and life continues and work goes on, you're on your own. And who do you turn to in that time? Because you're off on maternity leave and you can go back to work. But when you're not emotionally stable and you're very upset about what's happened, the difficulty is you can't speak to other mums who have got children because they don't understand your loss.
They won't have the sympathy or the empathy.
I think they try to empathise with the situation, but they're not living it.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas if you meet another mother who has lost a child, or meet another couple who have lost a child at stillbirth, or who are going through a traumatic time if their child is unwell, it allows you to build a relationship and rapport with them.
Thanks. Carol, coming to you, obviously, you were the family support practitioner, and obviously you came and intervened here, you made contact initially. I mean, is this something that you do? Because as I say, normally people associate hospice with somebody who's got terminal illness, they've got limited life expectancy, etc.
Yes, well, I work in the family support team, which has about 12 different team members, counsellors, bereavement support, sibling support. We have art therapists, play therapists. So part of my job is when we receive a referral, and anyone can refer. So when we receive the referral from the hospital about Anila, I then would contact straight away and arrange to either go out and visit Anila or invite her here and her husband. And we'd talk through how best we could support them. So generally, we have a snowflake pathway, which after a loss of a baby or a child, and we would look after the family for, say, 12 weeks, just be their named person. So whatever they needed, having a really bad day, help with registering the death, help with funerals. And then from there, we also run groups, which families are invited to. Anila, did you come to the walking group, Anila?
I did, yeah.
You did? And the Spice and Sparkle group. And then we run Bereaved Dads group, Bereaved Mums group.
So these are all little networks to help each other
within this
develop
hospice,
their confidence
within the family support team.
Right, okay. Now you mentioned support with funerals.
Yes.
Now within the Muslim community, when somebody dies or somebody's at the death door, for example, I mean your target group in the hospice is young people. So what's is that from birth to what age, 18, 20?
Up to, if they're referred before their 19th birthday, we would look after children up into early adulthood.
So up to the age of 19,
yeah,
they could come here.
Yeah.
Now, just can you explain a little bit about more about the hospice itself?
Okay.
I mean, somebody has been diagnosed in the hospital that somebody's got end of life, and people they're going to discharge them. Now, a lot of people may not have the facility to look after them at home because maybe their homes are quite small or they don't have the capacity themselves, the ability, the expertise to look after the loved ones, and they've been given choices by the hospital to say either you can take them home or you can take them to the hospice. So when they offer that choices, I mean, obviously people may take the option of the hospice. So what happens then when a person decides, okay, I'll take my loved one, my child, to a hospice?
So we would have a call from the hospital saying that we have a family who would like to come to the hospice for end of life or compassionate extubation. We have our advanced nurse practitioners here. We have a consultant from the neonatal unit, and we have a doctor, and we have prescribers. So we would work up a plan from the hospital with all the medications needed for that child. An ambulance would transport the child here and family would come along. We have a contained apartment, literally where the family, there's a bedroom, a kitchen, everything you would need.
So all self-contained? All
self-contained, and they can use the rest of the facilities. And some families would want maybe, there's a little reflection area, the baby can be compassionately extubated there, or they can just, recently we've had a family where they just stayed in the snowflake until the baby passed away.
Right.
And then we would start helping with the process of what they needed then.
So this snowflake room, or the room that you have, can accommodate not just the baby and the patient or the young child, but the parents as well.
Yeah, and we have other rooms if they had, say, 4 or 5 children. In fact, if I remember now, we had a family that came with 10 children.
Oh.
So we really all had to get together and work out where people were sleeping, but it worked, and it was the right thing to do for that family.
Now, obviously this is a huge call on your resources, isn't it? Enormous amount of call on your resources, and we will talk about resources when Gareth comes here, hopefully. But I mean, in terms of support staff, do you have all the expertise? So somebody needs complex medical care.
Yes, that's where we have the advanced nurse practitioners and the consultants. We have that. We are basically nurse-led in this organisation, but we have the overriding, as I say, consultants and doctors that are needed.
And how long can parents stay here? So, for example, somebody's been discharged, they've been told that the end of life, but end of life could be 1 day, 1 week, or 1 month.
Well, that's something to bear in mind, because obviously we are a hospice that we constantly get referrals. So if a child came here, we would probably plan, if a child was going to live for weeks and months, then they wouldn't come here, but they'd come towards the end. So we would look at maybe up to 5 days, and we can be flexible on that depending on what's needed.
Right. So the parents can stay here with the child for 5 days. But say, a child or a young person maybe comes here in the knowledge that they may not live for more than 5 days. But then Allah being Allah, sometimes it extends the life. So, if they then want to take them home,
we will support them at home.
You support them.
Yeah.
So would you provide similar services at home as well?
Yeah, we
so
would.
Medical support, etc.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nursing support.
And then if the child went home and lived longer than was expected, which would be wonderful, then we would link in with the hospital as well, because they might need additional care. And sometimes, I do remember a family we looked after, and they were told that the baby would die very quickly. And they decided, they stayed here for the week, and the baby was still okay. They decided they wanted to go home. They went home, and after 6 weeks, the baby was still okay.
Right.
So they went back to hospital. They did more scans, and then they found that something had changed, and there was an operation that the child could have. And in fact, we got a birthday card the other day for his third birthday.
Oh, wow.
So that was a really wonderful outcome.
Yeah. But that initial support must have been absolutely vital for those parents at that moment in time. Yeah.
Because for them, they thought he was going to die.
Yeah, exactly,
so
and that's another miracle of Allah. Sometimes it works. I remember, I've seen that case many times happen.
Yeah.
I've seen cases where somebody sort of in hospital wakes up and they're all fine. The next morning you hear that they passed away.
Exactly.
You think they're going to completely recover. It's happened, in my family. But I mean, in terms of the wider support structure, obviously, I'm sure, having been here for such a long time, as a hospice. And when I asked you this question, how many of your patients come from the black ethnic minority community, particularly the Muslim community, I was staggered. The figure that I was given was over 60%.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, this is what really surprised me when I first came here, and I was told that over 50% of the patients who come to Forget Me Not in Huddersfield are from the Muslim community, the subcontinent Asian Muslim community, and that's when I thought, this is something that we need to not be aware of, but also spread the knowledge about the support and the work that they do. And that's why I'm bringing this program into your homes, hopefully and you'll learn from this, and maybe you'll understand that this work is absolutely critical for those families who find themselves in this traumatic situation. So in terms of, we've got the user profiles over 60%, 50%, or 60%. I mean, the age group we've also talked about. But in terms of the support mechanism, halal food, prayer facilities and things like that.
They offer it all.
Are they all? I mean, I'm not sure whether you wanted all that when you were here.
Yeah,
you probably did.
Yeah, of course, because you want to break away and pray your namaz.
Yeah.
Or you want to have access to food and halal food, which they offer. I've come and spoken to different groups of parents, and it's helped both me and my partner at the time, my husband. Sadly, we're not together anymore, but things happen. But they've been an absolute support to me, through that difficult time. And they have the area is so vast. You've got a breakout area in different places, haven't you?
I mean, we'll be showcasing some of the facilities that they're here. I mean, if you look around, this is like Jannat in a way. It's like heaven. I mean, the gardens are so beautiful. So beautiful. And I was here in sort of summertime, and we originally wanted to do the program outside so you could see the beauty of this place. And I know that all the rooms that they have face the garden anyway, I think. So, the patients in the hospice, they can look at the beautiful, amazing views that we have, that they have access to. But because it's not a very bright day at the moment, so we've had to come indoors. Otherwise, we would have done it from outside. But in terms of the support facilities, so, like this halal food, do you provide halal food on site, or do you bring that in? Or do you have cooking facilities where halal food can be cooked?
We have all those things.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, we do.
Yes. So if a family wanted to cook themselves, we could provide the food. Right. We can cook it for them, or we can externally have some brought in.
So you have access to halal meats and things
absolutely,
like that?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. And what about in terms of prayer facilities? Other rooms, got directions to Mecca or something like that?
Yeah.
What do they?
Yeah, absolutely. We had somebody visiting the other day, and they looked up to the ceiling. They said, "What is the arrow?" And we said, "That is a direction."
Right.
So in the reflection room, and I think just out here there's
another one.
There's another one in the hub. So, and in the reflection room, there's prayer mats and prayer books, and for all religions. So,
right. Yeah. Oh, excellent. There you go. So, obviously they have catered for the needs of all communities, but particularly the Muslim community as well, bearing in mind that you're surrounded, you know, Huddersfield is surrounded by Dewsbury, Batley, Bradford, Leeds, you know, Heckman, Michael, Ravensthorpe, which has got a very, very large Muslim population. And as I say, you know, over 50% of the people who come here you know, are from the Muslim community as well. They may be Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, or African, you know, etc. But they cater to all their needs. And cultural, obviously cultural needs come into it, because there's Islam, there's a faith, and there's culture as well.
Of course,
you know,
yeah.
that sometimes people confuse the two,
Exactly.
but they're very, very different, you
Yeah.
know, because people of African faith, Muslim faith, have a very different culture to the people from the subcontinent. So, you know, if you were to send a message to our viewers as a practitioner, as you know, one of the support workers, what would you say to them to make them feel welcome?
I think a lot of people get frightened by the term hospice, and they think of it as a dark, sort of really sad place. But if you ever came and visited, you would realise things happen, you know, children do die. But on the whole, it's such a supporting, loving place. I would say just come along, take a look, and everyone is welcome.
Obviously, death in Islam is something that Allah says, we've been told we must think about death at least once a day, because we've got to remember life is it's not going to be eternal. You know, we're going to die at some point in life. Unfortunately, some people lose their child, you know, at stillbirth, and some people, you know, very late in their ages. But we are going to die. It's never ending. It's, you know, everybody's going to die at some stage. And I remember a friend of mine who lost her husband who had cancer, and she was saying that when at the last moment they were given the opportunity to go to the hospice, how enormously supportive that particular process and that facility had been to them. And without that facility, it would have been very, very difficult, even more traumatic than it already was. So, you know, obviously this facility is here, and hopefully we'll showcase that facility even further to you, and you'll hear more about how this facility is run by the hospice community and what sort of support they get from out externally. So inshallah, you know, we'll hear more about this, and we'll come back to you. And you know, Anila will be with me as well, with Gareth, the communications manager, and we can talk more about how you out there can support the work that is going on here, but also you can benefit from this support whenever you need to access it. So I hope you found this part of the program interesting, useful, and inshallah I'll be back with you after this break. Thank you, take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.